In this video, I'm going to be once again looking at some of my photographs. These still concentrate on people, but not with musical bent. Let's have a look. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James here once again, and in response to all the comments I had from the first one of my looking at some photographs, thank you very much for taking the time and the trouble to comment on them. Well, I've brought you a few more here, and these again are just photographs, and nothing special, but they're just photographs that I just like them. There's something in them which hooks on me. They're not my most professional shots necessarily. In fact, they're very far from my most professional shots. Some of them have been done because I was doing them from a press point of view. I actually got them sold in magazines and papers. Some of them were just purely for me. Some of them were rejects, I'll be honest. They were on shots that I did, which I didn't use anyway, for somebody else to see. But there's something that I got a kick out of. And these go back quite a few years, so they're shot on things like Canon 5Ds, Canon 1DS3s, Canon 70D, my OM1, my EM1 I should say, EM1 Mark 1, and I think my G9. I'm not too sure about that, but we'll go through. But it's a combination of all sorts of styles of photos, and to be honest, I bet you can't tell which one was done on which one, and that's the important thing. So let's just have a look at a few more. I'll go through, just tell you the stories of them, because they all have a little bit of a story, and I think that's what really interests me. So the first one is this guy. We saw him in 2018 when we were across in Mallorca. My wife wanted to go horse riding with my daughter, and they'd had a good afternoon. They'd been out riding, and this guy came back. He was one of the organisers of it. And it's just a look on his face, total joy on his face as he came back into the compound with the trail of people behind him. And to me, this is just an absolute joyous person, somebody who loves life and is just living life to the full without necessarily being in the expensive part of life, but just loving life for the sake of it. I just thought it was a really, really pleasant photograph, and nothing more than that. You know, it was never used as anything else except for just our memories on the holiday. So this was this guy. So moving on from him, I got so many comments about my granddaughter in the last video, and thank you, as I say, for the comments on that. Well, I've got a couple more of her, and again, these are the sort of photographs which just provoke memories. Somebody made a comment on the last photograph who was somebody in their 70s, and they said about, you know, this is the real use of a camera. The cameras are there to remember, to make the memories stay, rather than being portfolio shots. And these are what these are. I think these are what are provoking my memories, and I'm sharing with them because I consider my friends on here. So let's show my friends some photos. And this is my little granddaughter. This is on the beach at Blackpool. We're taking her down to Blackpool for the day, and the tide was out. And it's just a determination on the look on her face which I'm really impressed with. She's a determined little character. She's 7 years old now, nearly 8. So this was taken a number of years ago, but you can see the determination on her face there. She's about to throw the stone forward. Now again, keeping on with her, this was a few months later. It wasn't a great deal of time later, but they grew up so quickly. And this was one I just took in the spur of the moment. She was just looking towards me, coming towards me. I got time for one little blast off before she decided she did want to have a photograph taken. And I just love the fact that it's just, again, one of those little looks on the face of determination. She's just going to do something. Whether you wanted to do it or not, she's going to do something. And I love this one. I love the fact that just by picking the camera up, I just happened to get a good separation with the background. I just managed to get her nicely, I was going to say posed. She's not really posed, but nicely in the shot there. And I just love the expression on her face. Now, I've done quite a few of my family over the time. One of the problems I keep on doing on the channel, when I'm doing videos on this channel, is the majority of the photographs I used to take were either commissions or they were mass photographs, which I was doing to sell on, but of people who were in certain situations in certain areas where I can't just reproduce them now. It wouldn't be fair, it wouldn't be right to reproduce them. But there are a couple that I'll be able to get out and show you on this. And one of them is this guy here. He's an air cadet, and on that front, these were the sort of styles I was taking. I've got a release on this particular one, but this was taken of an air cadet, and this was the sort of thing I used to do. They're very similar to a sort of school photograph. However, they were of a military sort of bearing, and they had more of an impact, I think, with parents and with families because of the fact that you could. I think the uniform and the fact that they were doing something rather than just going to school, they were doing something quite grown up and quite important in their lives, hooked on with the parents. And I did a lot of these sort of photographs with that, with the squadron standard in the background. And I didn't like actually necessarily doing them facing that way. I tend to prefer people looking from right to left. But the thing is, on these, they had what the lanyard, the brassard, I should say, on the shoulder, which had all the badges, all their achievement badges on, and that was wonderful to see in the photographs. So this is what I used to do for a paid shot. Now again, talking of paid shots, these are a couple I did for the local press, and they are press photographs, and press photographs are a different sort of photograph. You're not looking for fantastic photographic style or whatever. You're looking to capture something which can paint a picture of something going on. And these three photographs were three photographs from an Armed Forces Day parade. And these are a number of years ago. Unfortunately, this first chap here, Major Joss Mark, who was the most decorated veteran in Carlisle at the time, he had a rich history of what he'd done, a very, very brave man in his younger days, and one of the nicest people you'd care to meet. And he was there, and it was just... This was a photograph which was taken, got into the local newspaper, sold off to the local newspaper, and it was just a really nice shot, just quickly taken of him watching the parade that was taking place just in front of him. And it was used to tell his story. And of course, he's there with his medals on, which he was proudly displaying, but also you know, the history of what was behind those medals was very much to the forefront of people's conversations. Sad miss, really lovely man, unfortunately no longer with us. But yes, that was a moment in time, but taken for a newspaper. Another photograph taken for the newspaper is this one with the Lord Lieutenant of Cumbria, the Queen's representative in Cumbria, meeting one of the local clergy, and also the chair of the Royal British Legion, who'd at the time raised millions with the Poppy Appeal. And this again was on that nice Armed Forces Day, which is at the end of June each year. Again, not a fantastic photograph in a photography point of view, but an ideal one just to put a story around in the press. And again, the press printed this one. And the third one is another air cadet. This was the local air cadet squadron from Carlisle, and this one was picked up at a few places for press. And again, it's just one of those. It's a long-range shot. I was quite a distance away. Just took a photograph of this cadet, and this was ideal. And again, this went into the local press as a press shot. And again, it just shows the description. It doesn't matter who he is. He was a local cadet, but it was just the fact that there was an interesting little story behind it because they had won the drill competition. There'd been a marching competition, which they had won. So again, all three of those ended up in the local press, and they were, from that point of view, they were really, really productive photographs, but not what I class as either complex or particularly skillful. They were just getting the right shot for what was needed. Now, there's another photograph which I really do love, which is actually the same clergyman that was in one of the press shots. And he commissioned me to do some photographs of his dog. And while I was doing photographs of the dog, I was getting really nice shots of the dog, which I'm not going to show you the ones which he actually chose for that. But while we're trying to get the dog to settle down, we just sort of were chatting away and messing away there. And I was trying to get the dog used to the flashes going off around him so that the dog wasn't bothered by it, got very used to it, which came very quickly. So I was just reeling off shots more than anything else just to trigger the flash, so that when we came to do the shots of the dog, it wasn't phased. And also wanted to get the excitement out of the dog out the way so it became a little bit more steady and stable. And this is a friend of mine, Keith, who was the local clergy there. This is his dog, and this is inside the church that he was in. that he had at the time. And it was just one of those catch-it shots which wasn't planned, it was just point and shoot. But I just love the communication between the dog and Keith. I think it's just wonderful. Again, I mean, the dog was... The dog's not really featured in it, but it's, again, that communication between the two. I enjoy this shot. I really enjoy looking at it. And although Keith seems to be the one telling the dog what to do, I think the dog's probably the one in control overall. But yeah, a shot which, again, I absolutely adore, and I hope you like it. Now, I've done a few other shots over the time, but usually I need some stooge who will help me just to set things up. And if I'm doing any shots at home, if I've got people coming in, I try and get myself all sorted up first. So I've got background sorted out, I've got focal lengths, I've got my flashes sorted, my strobes sorted out, all those sort of things. So that when I get somebody in for a proper shot, then it's all ready and we're not messing around with that. Now, unfortunately, that does tend to be my son, who is press ganged into being the model, and he hates it. He absolutely detests it. And he does everything he can not to show as if he's enjoying it. And this one was taken a few years ago. He'd literally been out working on the car. His hand, you can see, he's greasy and oily and filthy. He'd literally been working underneath his car at the time. And I said, come on, do us a favour, Dan. I just need to get this sorted. I need to try and get light and sorted out here. So I got the usual, do I have to, you know, all those sort of things. And I just shot this, and I shot it not to try and do the portrait. I was trying to get the lighting right more than anything else. So I actually had quite a wide, quite a narrow, I should say, aperture, medium sort of aperture. So it wasn't going to separate the background. And normally this wouldn't be a photograph I would have taken. I would have got the background a little bit more creamy. I would have dropped my aperture down so that I had more open aperture and have a lower depth of field. That's not what I was wanting on this. I just wanted to try and get my ideas about the lighting being right. And he was doing one of his, okay, then I suppose I'd better do it. And for some reason, this just looks great to me. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's had almost no touching up afterwards on. This is almost straight out the camera, believe it or not. And this one was shot on my G9. And I think this one was using the 45mm Olympus lens on it, if I remember rightly. So I was a few feet away just to try and get this tight shot under his head. But this, again, that's just something I love about it. It's very detailed, very, very sharp. And I just like, actually, I like the way that it got the light. And the light was moved from this. I didn't actually use this lighting setup. I pulled the lighting round a little bit further when I did the shoots. But for some reason, it just seemed to work. And with his complexion and the way that the lights hit on that, I just think it's a rather nice shot. If only I'd had the forethought to close the aperture down, to open the aperture up, I should say, so that it was a lower f-stop, and I would have got that shallow depth of field and got the background out of focus. That might have made a difference. But at the same time, I don't know, because the background looks quite rough and textured, and that gives quite a good look in itself. I like this picture. As I say, it's just a fun one. Now, when he does want to be shot, then that's different. And he has a channel of his own at the moment, and he concentrates on getting his car. It's basically a converted race car, a Skoda Fabia, which he's converting as a race car. And he is doing his channel, and unfortunately, a little while ago, the cam belt snapped, which caused big damage to the engine, which he's just busy fixing at the moment and doing up. But he said, can you do me a quick picture for my channel? I said, yeah, okay. This was about 1 in the morning, 12:30, 1 in the morning. And he'd been pulling the engine apart in the drive, and got down to the fact that the cam belt had snapped. And again, it was a case of, it's dark out there, Dan. I'll just bring a light. So we just brought one of the little lights. The light I'm actually using at the moment, the Zhiyun CX100. I had it in one hand. I took the photograph with my left hand, actually upside down, because it's the only way I could reach the controls and hold my right hand off to the side. It was a quick and dirty shot. But again, it's just one of those sort of ones. I think it's the expression on his face, holding the broken cam belt in his hands. it's overexposed on his face. That's fine. I don't mind that too much. But there's something about the way that the light just hits it, the totally black background in the background, the fact that you can see the car in it and the cam bell. I think, again, it tells a story, and I like telling stories about them. So this is the other one of my son, and again, he'd probably not like me for saying that. Now that brings us to the last photograph on this, and one of the ones I got the most comments on, apart from the ones about granddaughter, but the ones I got the most comments on was one where I was with my daughter and we were having a really good laugh together, a thoroughly enjoyable laugh. And occasionally you get these things where that happens. And this particular photograph is a couple of good friends of mine, Tony and Annie. And we had Annie and Tony are both Rotarians. I'm a Rotarian myself, member of Rotary International. And we'd had a presentation at this particular thing. Annie had become a Paul Harris Fellow, and she'd visited the Rotary Club of Wall Street, New York. And because she was a Paul Harris Fellow and you can visit different Rotary clubs, she was made incredibly welcome there. And she runs a charity, a musical charity, for people with all sorts of learning and physical difficulties. And basically, she turned up there, she was made so welcome about it, and she brought back one of their pennants to our club and presented it on to us. Now, at the time, Tony was the club president, and we had a proper formal handover, and there's a couple of photographs which I took of that, of the sort of what I call the grip and grin handshake sort of things. But just after that, they handed over, they shared something of a joke. And again, this is the pure joy of photography, and this is something that I do like in a photograph. And Tony and Annie's expression is so real, so natural. They said something funny to each other. Tony just cracked up on it. And it was just one of those heartfelt sort of experiences where you look at it and you think, this is just wonderful. And this is one I'm leaving you on because this one just makes me smile myself every time I see it. I just find it a wonderful little photograph. I love the sentiment in it, and I love the fact that it's something which was a happy event which caused it, and a happy outcome with the looks on it. And if I've got one sort of legacy photograph in my time as Rotary, this is the one I would choose as my legacy photograph, because it really is, for me, it sums up the whole thing of friendship and fellowship. So I hope you've enjoyed my photographs. If you've been watching if you're one of my Patreon patrons, like these wonderful people are here, my Patreon patrons here are the ones who see these videos first. They're going to be seeing these ones slightly ahead of you, so they'll have a chance to see them ahead of the crowd, and there's other perks on that. So if you're not a Patreon patron, if you have a look down below, then you'll find in the details for this video a link to my Patreon. Or if you just like to give a bit of one-off support, again, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link downstairs as well. So I'd welcome any of those sort of support. But they're the people who keep this channel really going. The other thing is, if you're not, then please become a subscriber to the channel. I'm almost at 12,500. So help me get just over that target if you can. It's free, it doesn't cost anything, and it's just down below there. And again, like in the first one, I really welcome the comments that you gave, because they're so positive, that most of the comments that I read, and again, that gives me a lot of joy to read those comments, and I try to reply to as many as I can as well. So if you have a chance, leave a comment below, and I'd love to see that. But until the next time, keep on taking photographs yourself, keep on enjoying your photographs, and hopefully get some photographs which stimulate you and make you enjoy looking back at them over the years, whether they're the keepers or whether they're the ones are the accidental ones which you don't show anybody else, but you enjoy yourself. See you next time.